All right, lads and lasses, and good day, mates. Welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's biggest and best and number one and probably the most annoyed podcast for all things Newcastle United. I'm joined by Mark. We're going to be talking about that Chelsea game down at the Bridge, which was last night for English, and it was this morning for us. And I'll tell you what, Mark, sometimes it's a nice thing to be able to be over in Australia. We can watch all the games. We can watch any game we like. We can watch the full things on replay. But when you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're catching a game just before work and stuff, and then you lose, especially in a game like today, and you end up having to think about it the whole day. You don't get any sleep. You're just sitting there on the back of your mind, just gnawing away at you, thinking, "Oh, that was so shit. That game was so bad." It's not so good when it's like that. Well, how you going, Mark? What did you think of that performance down there, mate? It was so bad.
Yeah, the club definitely ruins your day on matches like that, doesn't it? It's not so. It's just that you get to sit there and sift through social media. You get to chew over what could have gone wrong. Our group chat's been on and off all day, trying to make heads or tails of what we've done wrong, where all of the crisis is. It's nice to have someone like Keegan, who's this voice of reason in the background, but yeah, it definitely doesn't make it any easier when you've got to kind of concentrate on work and put it all to one side while everyone's kind of sleeping it off in the UK.
But now that we've had kind of all day to think about it and maybe analyze in our own minds and on the chat where it went wrong. What's your kind of feeling about that performance from this morning now that you look back on it retrospectively?
I guess after the Wolves performance, where things seem to click a little bit more, we seem to have a bit more of a game plan. We seem to be a bit more energetic after what was a pretty abysmal results and abysmal performance, at least against Blackburn. We're kind of like looking to try and get back on the roll, get some results together. And then you come up against Chelsea, who you're thinking like, okay, look, we don't have a great record at Stamford Bridge. We don't have a great record away from home this season in general. But you're thinking like, if we're going to put anything sort of a run together, then it's got to be against Chelsea, because they've been so hit and miss all season. It was almost this must-win game to kind of keep our European hopes alive. They were below us in the table. It was kind of like this mid-table clash where it was a who was going to finish on top in the league and who was going to prove that their bad season turned around a little bit more. But yeah, it wasn't to be. Frustrating, I think, more than anything. I think we've said it a lot this season, and seeing the club in this current state where last season we were so energetic, we were chasing players down, we had that little niggle in midfield, we had that bite where it was needed. We just look toothless at the moment. We don't look like we've got any energy. We look like we've lost a yard of pace. Just infinitely frustrating, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, frustrating, certainly. It feels a bit like we've lost belief as well. Like, I think, it has been a long season. There's still obviously a bunch of games to go, but with everything, I mean, the Champions League feels like years ago now. It feels like it was last season almost. But you can't really ignore the toll that must have taken on the team. I mean, from the highs to the lows, going out of the League Cup and all that kind of business, it all kind of plays on the mind. But the injuries, they've always been there or thereabouts. We've never really got over the hump with those injuries. And as we slip further down the table, I suppose it's kind of to be expected that the players are going to kind of do the same as the fans, I suppose, in some regard. They're just going to start thinking, you know what, this is kind of starting to slip a little bit away now. We are kind of going back down to that mid-table mediocrity kind of area of things. The performances, sometimes we can do all right. Sometimes, most of the time, perhaps they're going to be absolutely terrible. Today, it was certainly a terrible one. And it's not, I mean, I would like to sit here, really, probably all of us would like to sit here and say, look, you know what, Chelsea were just fantastic. Fair play at Chelsea. That was an excellent win. And not to take anything away from their goals either, but they were just as bad as us. I mean, you mentioned that Wolves game. where we kind of sat back and counted. That felt like roles reversed in that game, really. It felt like we were the Wolves team coming, bringing the ball, bringing the pressure to the Chelsea team, and Chelsea was sitting back and just hitting us on the break, which is what Newcastle did. So it felt like a bit like a role reversal there. And I don't know how many more times we have to say this, but we are not a team that can break down a defensive low, medium, or high block. We just kind of break, we do it on occasion, very rarely if we get lucky. But on the whole, we just aren't equipped to break down those kind of high defensive teams. And then, of course, everyone knows we don't have the pace either. So if someone does get a breakthrough with a counter attack, we're basically buggered. Like you've got to absolutely leg it back with everything you've got. I saw Jacob Murphy doing it at one point, and he was still getting outstripped by Mudryk, because that's what's required. You've just got to pound your legs to try and get back because you haven't got the pace to keep up with these players. And yeah, in the end, I think we were all just pretty much bloody dejected by the end of it. I don't want to sort of bang on too much about the details of this game, the specifics of it, because who the hell cares about that? I do want to look at the teams to start with, though. It was Petrovic for Chelsea in goal, and Gusto, Dizazi, Chalobah, and Cucurella, and Caicedo, Enzo, and Gallagher, Palmer, Jackson, and Sterling, and then a bunch of subs, including the aforementioned Mudryk, who just seems to like scoring against us, didn't he? He broke our hearts in that League Cup game in December with that 90+2 equaliser, and then they went on to win on the penalties. I feel like he's kind of one of those players, a bit like Sterling, actually. He always likes scoring against us. He did in this game. He was bloody awful in this game. But, Mudryk's starting to feel like one of those players who just sees Newcastle on the lineups, and he's like, champion, I'm definitely going to go here. In fact, next time I'm sticking him in with bloody fantasy football team before this game. Next time I face him, he's going right in because he's guaranteed to get a goal. Let's have a look at Newcastle as well, and we'll just talk a bit about it. So it was Dubravka, who else in goal for us? Then Tino, Shaw, Botman, and Byrne at the back. Bruno, Lungy, and Willock in the middle. Then it was Miggy, Gordon, and Isaac. The subs, I've seen one or two people saying, the subs were bloody shit. Well, check out the subs bench. Karius, Lascelles, Ritchie, Target, Kraft, Murphy, Anderson, White, and Miley. So you've got two kids to start with there, and then a bunch of people who have hardly played at all. And there's no options. We are just sort of bereft of options. So if you're going to complain about Eddie Howe and his terrible substitutions, please tell me who else we can stick in that subs bench, because we haven't got any options. But coming back to these teams, Chelsea, maybe if you want to start there, Mark, any surprises?
I am aware that my screen has frozen, so I'm not sure if you can still hear me.
I can still hear you. You look very still.
My camera seems to have frozen, so at least it's not a weird weird pose. At least, anyway. Look, I mean, Chelsea has spent an absolute fortune. We know that. You don't spend that much money, and even though they may have overpaid for stuff, you know that the players they bought are quality players. It hasn't clicked. There's a lot of egos. They're not kind of managing that. They've been through a few managers. That things are just not quite in the right frame of mind for them. But that doesn't mean that on any given day, that little bit of extra quality is going to shine through. And you've got Enzo, you've got Caicedo, you've got like Mudryk off the bench. Like, these, they've got decent enough kind of players, at least on paper, so that if something does click for them, then that little spark of brilliance off one of those players might be all the difference. Unfortunately, that was probably the case today, where we weren't at the races. We kind of struggled to really kind of give a good account of ourselves, but they punished us well and truly, much like Isak did for us against them when he scored his goals. So in terms of so onto our lineup. Look, it's kind of getting tiring now going through our injury lists. We seem to still be getting one player back and losing another player to injury. Gordon obviously went off with a knee injury in this game. We're still waiting to hear back from the club, I guess, in terms of how bad that injury is. Look, Botman's out of form. Longstaff's well and truly out of form. Isak seems to have lost a bit of pace. We're not providing enough chances for him. Almiron's well and truly out of form. Willock's literally just back from injury, so he's thrown in the deep end because we've got no other options. But, I think this has been the story of our season, where every time we've had a player that's just come back from injury, he's thrown back in the team. He doesn't get that chance to kind of build up fitness, build up form. He's just thrown in and then suddenly expected after, however many months out injured, he's suddenly back in the first team and expected to be sort of like in prime form. It doesn't happen that way. And we've just never managed to get that momentum up this season because of all those injuries and because of that kind of constant issue with, players who are either carrying knocks or not 100% fit, not in form, having to play all the games because we've got no other options. And, as you said, look, Anderson's back. Yeah, maybe Anderson could play in there instead of a Longstaff or maybe instead of an Almiron, but he's just back from injury as well. So he's not really going to be up to speed in terms of fitness to play a full 90 minutes.
No.
Isak, I fully think is playing through some injury. I reckon Longstaff probably is as well. And yeah, we've seen on social media and other podcasts who criticizing Longstaff playing so many minutes, and where's all the substitutions and what's happening. It's like, we've got Miley, who has in fairness played very well but has played way too many minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got Anderson, who's just back from injury. You're trying to get him up to fitness. He can't play a full game. You've got Murphy, who's kind of just back from injury, swapping in and out, but he was called on because Gordon goes off injured. And then the rest of is all defenders or kids off the bench. So, we still don't have that bench depth at the moment. So
and then we lose the likes of Harvey Barnes, who
exactly
who's a tight hammy from the Wolves game, which is, he's only just getting back. And immediately he's kind of having to be protected because he has what could be a bad hamstring thing developing, although Eddie says it doesn't look too bad. But like every time he says that, they're getting amputated. So it's like, even when we get these players back, as you say, we put them in too early, they pick up knocks, they're out again. Miley's played far too much. Longy, I don't know what the hell's going on with Longy, but today in particular, I think it really highlighted just how much he is struggling at the minute in the team. He was largely anonymous, I think, and he's bearing a bit of the brunt of some of the anger. But if you stick in Miley, he's not getting a rest. You're just going to injure him at some point. As you say, Anderson's just coming back, and he's really a winger anyway. What do you do? There's only so much you can do with this team of players who are either playing through injury or are injured or knackered. Bruno, for example, he's just had a kid. He was absolutely, he was cooked through this game. He was absolutely shagged. At one point, he's walking with the ball, and Palmer kind of ran a circle around him, nicked the ball, and buggered off up the other end of the pitch. And Bruno's like,
well, it's not only that. He's still walking that tightrope on a like 9 yellow cards as well.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Which somehow he's avoiding.
Full, yeah, but I think he's kind of eased off his game, so he's not that usual tenacious self in midfield. So that's kind of easing up the pressure on the opposition because he's scared of getting another booking. Longstaff, I think, has been poor, and I totally understand the criticism of him. But as you said, who's going to come on for him? And Willock's literally back off injury and probably had a bad game today. But again, he's like literally back off injury. You can't expect these players to be like literally on top form after so long out injured without an ease in period. So
yeah, exactly. We are in a very difficult place. But that said, Chelsea 3, Newcastle 2, obviously we scored one of those goals at the very, very end. And bloody hell, what a goal that was from Murphy, by the way. We'll get on that in a little bit. But it's not like this game had gone from us. At 3-1, it started to feel a lot like that. And then we get it to 3-2. It's about 6 minutes left of extra time to try and get something out of it, and Chelsea do a good job in snuffing most of those things out. And Chelsea themselves had like a bunch of shots missed. We had a bunch of shots missed. The whole thing was just absolutely crazy. But the thing is, though, I feel like we start this game pretty well as well. The first 5 or 6 minutes, I'm sitting here thinking we are obviously going to play the high press today. We've got Chelsea pinned back in their goal area. There's 3 of our players standing on the edge of the box while Chelsea keeper has it at his feet. And they do that thing where they spread out the fullbacks to the sides, and then Newcastle's got 3 guys ready to pounce, and we're kind of guarding some of the wingers behind us as well. And we are almost forcing them into several mistakes in that sort of early period of time. But it felt like the first time Chelsea actually got out their own half on 6 minutes, and they go and score. Burn, we all know he's a bit slow. he couldn't cut out the cross from down the left. I can't remember down our left. I can't remember if that was Sterling or someone else. But anyway, he doesn't cut it out. But the cross is nothing. It is literally going to land in Dubravka's arms. Like Dubravka's there, knees are down. He's like almost like cricket. You know, when the wicket keeper, they've got the leg down, they've got the hands ready. They're going to catch the ball. Botman, however, is in front of him. Botman's got different ideas. I don't know if Dubravka has said anything, given him a shout. Communication can often be our issue at the back there. I don't know if Botman just hasn't heard it because he's near the fans. I don't know if Botman just panicked because he's seemingly carrying a little bit of an injury and he just wants to clear the ball. Whatever he doesn't do a very good job of clearing it. It's kind of a half side foot, half-arsed effort. It just goes right to Palmer, who, again, to be fair, shit shot. He kicks it straight into the middle of the goal. It looks like it's probably going to go wide. It was a really bad, scuffed shot. We can't do anything about it. We can't defend it. And then it's Jackson who, to be fair to Jackson, there was a lovely back heel, cute touch type action to just steer the ball ever so slightly in a different path to where Dubravka might have thought it was going to go, and it sort of just rolls casually into the bottom corner. Absolute kick in the bollocks that was, Mark.
Well, it was one of those things. I apologize for my camera. It is just one of those days. Yeah, it's completely shat its pants. So we'll soldier on. Look, it was one of those things where it was some bad defending in the build-up. Yes, we can sort of go along with that. But if you look at the slight deflection, Shah was waiting there to like defend the ball had it not taken the deflection. And if it had taken a slightly harder deflection, then Dubravka gets it. It's kind of this, like, it's just deflected off his foot. That probably doesn't know a lot about it. And it literally threads the needle in exactly where the only place it could go that was going to score a goal. So yeah, I feel a little bit hard done by the opening goal. But yeah, the opening play, the build-up play for that was pretty poor.
But yeah, I mean, why isn't Dubravka just scooping up that absolute nothing ball cross in the first instance, though? I mean, we sometimes talk about communication issues at the back, and it's not the first time this maybe's been a case for a call to have been made, and either one hasn't been made or just hasn't been heard, or maybe it's even being ignored. That first action, there's no danger. Dubravka picks that up. End of danger. We off go to the other side of the pitch. It's still 0-0. That was the first problem. Second problem is that Palmer is allowed to just scoop the ball down to take it from Botman in his terrible clearance, and then casually take a shot into the middle of the mix. I mean, there was many actions that, the key thing where it actually ends up in the goal is the slight change in path from Jackson, as we say, but there was a litany of errors that led to that point, and it seemed to be the case throughout the whole game, really. Do you think this maybe is just, I don't know, I don't want to say set the scene, but kind of just got the ball rolling in our terrible performance? Do you think that knocked us? Do you think that took the wind out of our sails after what we could start?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we concede an early goal. We get back into the game. We lose another goal to probably poor defending as much as the shot was good. It was just one of those games where I just don't think, I think you summed it up really well earlier. It doesn't look like we've got belief in ourselves at the moment that we can actually go ahead and win those games, which is really annoying. But it's something that I've been saying all season. We're very much a momentum-based team. We are very much we rode that wave of positivity, those like, we had that adrenaline rush, if you like, last season. And that kind of, I think, gave us that extra 20-30% from the players that are now, potentially losing 20 or 30%, which is a huge swing when we're reliant on that energy and work rate rather than the skill. Because no offense to the likes of Longstaff and Miggy and all that, but we know they've got limitations. And I think you can see that when we can see goals now, it's like, oh, here we go again. There are still quality players in that squad who will fight, and that everyone's giving their all, but I just don't think they have the belief in themselves at the moment. And so, yeah, concede a sloppy goal, and it's like, oh, there we go again.
Yeah, and credit to the team, though. I mean, Chelsea still maintain that sort of deep defensive kind of action, the setup. They did start to kind of come out of that a little bit in the next sort of 20, 30 minutes, maybe, and they were taking a few shots at goal. I think I remember a stat flashing up on the screen at some point during first half, middle of the first half maybe, and it was like Chelsea had taken 6 shots with 3 on target or something like that, and we'd had 1 shot and it was off target. And that just showed you, even though we had all the possession, it seemed, we were just being crowded out around the goal area and not even taking shots at goal to see what might happen, And in between them scoring and Isak getting his level just before the break, as you say, Gordon goes down with an apparent knee issue. It's almost like this was set up to happen because he'd just done that interview with Chris Hope in the Mail. I think it was Craig Hope, sorry. I think in the Mail, this puff piece about how great he is, and I did notice as I was reading that he was saying he'd been trying exceptionally hard this year, like hard as he possibly could to try and get in that European team, the Euros team for England. And as much as I hate players going away on international duty because they always end up getting crocked or whatever, it is true that there is a certain amount to be said for players thinking they can get into the England squad with a decent team and then given an extra 5%, 10% that they might be able to give in order to try and make that happen. And obviously the Newcastle team benefits as a result. So it's almost like it was written in the stars because you've been banging on about it. And Southgate is in the crowd as well, as if that wasn't bad enough. He's standing there like watching it, watching how it was going. And Gordon, he's having a few runs, but he hadn't done a great deal, to be honest with him, at this point. And he goes down with under nothing as well. There didn't seem to be anything happened. No, I couldn't see any contact. I couldn't see, maybe studs were getting a little bit stuck in the turf. Perhaps it had been raining. I don't know what the hell happened. He went down, didn't look too happy, tried to play on, and then eventually just had to get hooked. I've got a mate who works in radiology, and he reckons it was a medial collateral ligament. I've got no idea how he knows this, but an MCL strain rather than like an ACL or something. And he reckons it's probably just in the order of weeks to get over that. But I don't know how he knows that. And then that might be complete bollocks for all I know. But it was just so terrible bad luck for Gordon, who's been probably our player of the season in large stretches. But anyway, we managed to get a goal before halftime. Lots of huffing and puffing. Finally, we get the goal to take us level just before halftime. Always a good time to score. It's Isak. Who else? The legend himself. Honestly, the play that led up to this goal was kind of just low quality. It was just all over the place. It was just passes getting miskicked. There was blocks. There was, it was like watching the Sunday League team. It was pretty poor. But the ball eventually comes to Isak, who's slightly out on the wing, and he takes a lovely touch just to kind of set himself and make a little angle, and then nails it into the far corner. Do you reckon we, on the balance of playing that first half, first of all, lovely goal. Secondly, do you think we deserved to go in equal with the scores at half time there?
I think we had our chances. I think we were sloppy. I think most people said that we probably deserved an equalizer in that first half. I'm not 100% convinced, I have to say, but on the basis of the amount of possession, we did have some chances. Chelsea had shots on goal that weren't really on target as well, at Dubravka. Look, yes, I think we probably did deserve something out of that first half, but it is up for debate. It's one of those things where, like, in hindsight, probably not, but at the time you're probably thinking, yeah, look, okay, fair enough, we're back in the game now, let's go on and win this. We weren't actually that bad. Those are the things that we've come to expect as Newcastle fans.
Yeah, I think we did well. After they scored, with losing Gordon as well, sometimes you lose a player and it kind of rocks the team. We did well to keep in this game, but I think I've written down a notice saying that was our first shot on target. I can't honestly remember if that's true or not, but if that is true, that just kind of goes to show again what we're saying about the stats there, where for all the possession, we had a lot of possession in this game as well, and not in the first half in particular, and just did not with it. But then on this one occasion where you need that bit of quality to break through a little bit, you've got Isak. We all know he's absolute quality. Lovely finish, and I believe that's his 16th of the season, not in the league, but in total. So he's doing pretty well now. So that takes it in the second half, and we're thinking, all right, look, I'm thinking that's probably going to change a little bit about what Eddie Howe was maybe going to see. Maybe he's going to tweak one or two things here or there, as you would do if you're losing, and not really pressuring their goal too much. He sees us going at 1-1. He maybe starts to think that, kind of see that we're perhaps starting to turn it around a little bit. Chelsea are terrible. We're not doing much better, but nonetheless, we've just scored. We've kind of knocked them back a little bit just before half time. Their team talk's going to change as well. And I'm thinking, what's Eddie going to do here? Is he going to change tactics? Is he going to keep on this pressure thing? I think we had a discussion in the chat there whether or not we should have just done that whole sit back and let Chelsea come at us. I'm glad we didn't, because Chelsea have that individual quality, as you've mentioned, Mark, who that can unlock. They can do this just outrageous shot from funny angles. If you give them plenty of time, they can pick their places. So we came out, and I'm pretty sure we were kind of more or less the same. And I feel like we started the second half a bit like the first, lots of pressure, lots of high press. So I think Eddie had probably decided that this plan was actually starting to work a little bit. But then there was like a stretch of like 10 minutes or something where Chelsea just all over us. And we cannot really get away with the ball. We kind of get ahead of it. Every time we touch it, we're just kind of panicking and scooping it out into trying to get into space. It inevitably that finds the Chelsea player, as it always does when you're panicking and trying to get an out. And then Palmer gets the ball, and it was like the defense just stood there, wasn't it? Like they'd almost just decided that, Lee Point trying to close down Palmer here. He's made a little run there, and I reckon he's probably going to score. I'll just stand here and watch a little bit. I mean, to be fair, it was a nice shot, lovely shot. But if you give someone with his quality that much time and space, he probably can find a decent spot to kick the ball at. Dubravka,
I think we've been guilty of that quite a bit, though. We've been guilty of that quite a lot this season, where we're letting players do something that rather than like close down and put pressure on them, and it's been our downfall quite a few times. So you would think they're kind of aware enough of that, where don't switch off, don't give them an easy shot, don't give them that easy ball. And again, it comes back to that whole problem where is it a case that we're lacking that bit of fitness, that bit of confidence, that bit of adrenaline boost, that we're just not at the races in terms of that intensity that we saw last season that kind of served us so well.
So I feel like we're just getting knackered too quick. I don't know if it's because we're doing too much running too quick, trying to get that early goal and then maybe settle down a little bit. But I mean, we looked nervous and kind of almost disinterested for that particular goal to make it 2-1 to Chelsea. And then it was like straight after the restart, they almost went and scored another counter-attack goal. And if it wasn't for, I think it was Byrne on the line, I think he had maybe Shaw next to him as well. But if it wasn't for that, Sterling's just shooting straight past Dubravka to make it 3-1. We looked like all over the place at this point, and it's amazing to see the confidence. You'd assume they'd have confidence from having equalised before half-time. But a bit of applied pressure from Chelsea, and suddenly we're looking like we're crapping our pants with every little move there, And yes, we were trying to push for that equaliser ourselves, but we just kind of coughed it up, and Chelsea were right back in behind us. And we've seen it, I don't know how many times this season. If we push too far ahead, especially against a quality team, they're going to pull our pants down, mate, and they're going to do us. Just no
Chelsea have got a quick team. We've got a really slow defense. We've got an obvious thing that we discussed quite a lot. We've got a slow team in general, and the fact that we don't have Pope, who's that sweeper keeper, to kind of patrol that backline so that he can sort of take care of those balls through. But yeah, it's difficult. I'm finding it harder and harder to put my finger on exactly what I think is going wrong, other than just this collection of random stuff. Yeah, and it's just everything that can go wrong seems to be going wrong for us at the moment.
Yeah, and as if that wasn't enough, not only do we then concede another goal to make it 3-1 to Chelsea, but just before that we lose Byrne, who goes down. I mean, it was a pretty poor header in the end. He leaps like a salmon, he nuts it far wide, and then just kind of collapses in a heap. Looked like he went onto his shoulder again. Didn't he do his shoulder earlier on?
No, it was his back. No, he injured his back, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's either winded or he's kind of like almost fell on his neck and his shoulder and giving himself like whiplash or something. Yeah, it did amuse me though when the commentary was constantly going, oh, look, Newcastle should be just putting a ball in the box when they've got a cross or a corner, a free kick. They've got the tall timber up there, Dan Burn, you know, his height. And it's like, do they watch any Newcastle games? Because he's awful in the air.
No, they don't watch any games. I mean, Dan Bird himself has said he should score more headers because of his height. You know, I don't think his job when he's in there is to do that though.
No, it's
his
to get
job
the
is
first
clearly to hit it
and,
across the box.
Yeah.
That's all he's meant to do. It's like usual whip to the far post. He nuts it across the box, and then he's waiting for someone else to kind of be on the end of it to put it away. That's his main job. But he was actually trying to hit it towards goal. Completely got it wrong. Felt like a sack of shit. And you know, a few minutes later, it gets taken off. Unfortunately, we have to wait and see how bad that was. But yeah, then Mudryk comes on, and as I say, he just loves scoring against us. It doesn't take him very long. It's like 5 minutes or something by the time he scores his goal to make it 3-1. Nice counter-attack from Chelsea again. I mean, it's the same story. This whole game was basically just them sitting back and counter-attacking. They knew they had the pace. They knew that we couldn't keep up with them. And it was, you know, as much as Poch gets slammed for not being good enough for Chelsea, at least not yet, it was the right thing to do against us, I think. You know, just sit back. You've got the pace. You know you're going to burn us. Just wait for the chance. You've got the quality to get out of those high presses. And to be honest, this goal, again, bad luck. It was a really bad bit of control from Gallagher, Craig's best mate. He tries to trap the ball. It just goes right past him, like as if he wasn't even looking at it. But fortunately for them, Mudryk is kind of, he's probably anticipating a short pass from Gallagher, but the ball kind of just falls into his run. And then he has a lovely bit of individual skill to get around the static defense, who just sort of stand there like going, and then, you know, Dubravka's got no chance at this point. He just kind of slots it past him. Yeah, what could we have done about that one then?
Not a lot. It's just, I mean, that goal I didn't really have too much of a problem with. There was, you know, if you get hypercritical, you can kind of point fault at defenders in all of our goals, in the build-up play. You know, should the keeper have done better? Blah blah blah. But you know, sometimes you got to go, look, that was actually not a bad goal, and at that particular moment, we were pushing to try and get a goal back, and you're going to get caught on the counter attack because, as I've said, we don't have the pace to really cover. So it was always going to be a case of, look, we needed to get one back, or we were going to concede a third. We know the way it went. So
I mean, we were again pressing at this point, you know, and they score on the back of this counter attack, and it's a nice bit of fortune for them. We didn't get any fortune just before this. I mean, it's Tino who takes an absolute thunderbastard shot into the mix, and you know, often you can see those things just take a touch off someone and go flying into the corner of the net, and the keeper's just stranded. But this just went into a Chelsea player who was able to cushion it and make that counter attack happen. We just weren't getting those kind of runs of the green today. Not that I think we deserved it, because we were bloody awful. Yeah, and then, I mean, to be honest, it's a bit of huffing and puffing, bit of to and fro after that goal. It's 3-1. You're thinking that's pretty much game over for us. 90 minutes, you're thinking, I just blow the whistle, ref. I want to stop watching this crap. Murphy sends Cucurella to the shops. It was a classic Cucurella, because I actually thought Cucurella had a pretty good game today, actually, given how much I used to slate him for being absolutely awful at Chelsea. And he comes charging out to try and meet the ball, and Murphy's got the sense of mind and sense of presence to just turn him, and Cucurella just goes flying on his arse. It was hilarious. He turns around, Murphy does, he runs a little bit to goal, and then leashes an absolute rocket into the near post as well. It was a fucking brilliant goal.
Top bins.
Top bins. It was sensational. And he's kind of not really celebrating, because obviously there's still a game to win here. Yeah. You're thinking 6 minutes to go extra time. Can we do it? But that was that when he tends to try these shots a lot, doesn't he, Murphy? And a lot of times he just completely balls them up. But when he gets them right, Jesus Christ, they stay hit, don't they? That was a cracking goal.
I think you're gonna have to have like players that. I mean, the one thing that I've always been critical of Newcastle is we try to walk it in at times. So you kind of want to see players like that and Shah, who at least are going to have a crack from outside the box, or at least sort of put a bit of pressure and a bit of pot shots on the defense and the keeper, just to kind of keep them on their toes and keep them honest more than anything. We don't want them to be able to just kind of sit off and leave players like that to have that free shot. So it does put that pressure on the defense and the opposition to kind of push out, which hopefully frees up some space in behind for other players. But yeah, absolutely cracking shot from Murphy. If we can get a couple more of those in games while we're not conceding a hatful, which again is disappointing, going from effectively the best defense in the league last season to conceding an absolute hatful this season. We seem to be scoring more, but we're actually conceding more again. So we're just not still not doing anything. Just generally frustrated at the whole way that game sort of played out, I think, more than anything. And little highlights like the Isak goal and the Murphy goal doesn't make up for the extra bits of frustration throughout that game, including some of the defending for the Chelsea goals.
No, exactly. I mean, by my reckon, that means we haven't won a single league game in London. Is that right? Does that sound right to you? This season?
I'm not far short. I can't remember who we've beaten down there. If we have, that's for sure.
We've won 1 or 2 in the league cups and stuff, but in the league, I'm pretty sure it's 1-0, drawn 1, and then lost 4, including goddamn Luton. And we've got Fulham, Palace, and Brentford still to come until the end of the season, away from home down in London. So there is still opportunity there to get something out of one of those games at least, to try and get a bloody win. That's our 9th away defeat in the league. Only Brentford and Sheffield have done worse than us so far. It's just that's been the Achilles heels for us this season, hasn't it, really? When you consider how well we did last season, I think we went unbeaten last season in London. I could be wrong about that, but it feels like that's right. And this season, can it buy a bloody win? That was Isak's 12th Premier League goal of the season, and as I said earlier, he's got 16 goals in all competitions this season, doing pretty well, but kind of would have hoped to get a bit more there. Murphy scored his second. I'm on the stats already. Murphy scored his second Premier League goal of the campaign. So yeah, hopefully get a bit more at him, and he's going to probably get a chance, isn't he? Now that Golden's injured, Barnes is already injured. It's a toss-up whether or not Anderson plays instead of him, perhaps. I don't know. We'll have to see how that works out. And we've only kept 1 clean sheet in 14 Premier League away games so far this season.
Yeah, that's just not good enough, is it?
That's absolute dog shit, mate. That is so bad. Let's have a look at the actual stats. We actually dominated the possessions. I thought we did. It was 55 to us to their 45, and that's just really a reflection of them deciding to play a more defensive formation and lineup and tactics, and hit us on the break. They had 12 shots to our 11, and 8 of those were on target for them, and we had 3 on target. We scored from 2 of them. I mean, it's not good enough. You got to take your shots, and you got to hope they're on target, and you got to make them worry about it. We had 4 corners. They didn't even have a single corner, and then 12 fouls for them, 7 to us. Oh God, let's try and wrap this up because I'm thoroughly depressed. Newcastle, we remain in 10th. It was kind of funny. The commentators say, "No, if the Newcastle win this, will be up into 7th." I was like, "Bitch, we're in 7th to start this bloody weekend." No, we're not because of the other games. But yeah, anyway, we've ended up in 10th.
Yeah.
We are being eclipsed by some of the smaller teams here. Chelsea, on our coattails, haven't played one game fewer as well, so we could even drop down there again
so
to 11th.
That's the worry, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got us on 40 in 10th, Wolves on 41 in 9th, Brighton 42 in 8th, West Ham 43 in 7th. Very tight, those kind of 10th to 7th. Then you got Man United with a little gap in 6th with 47. Then Spurs in 5th on 53. Then it's Villa 55, City 63, Pool 64, and Arsenal 64. So I was kind of feeling a little bit all right when we were in 7th. I was thinking, you know what, despite everything, despite the trauma, the injuries, the reoccurring injuries, the European campaign that just killed us, the going out of the League Cup, we're still in the FA Cup, but who knows how long that lasts. We've got Man City next, away. So, we might as well just rule that one out. Despite all that, we were sitting in 7th, and I was thinking, geez, you know what, this is not bad. This actually, given how bad the season's gone for us. But here we are now in 10th, possibly going a little bit lower if Chelsea wins their game in hand, and who knows where we end up. We have become very much a mid-table team this season, unfortunately, but it is not without reason. I'm going to say we can wrap this up pretty soon, Mark. I don't know about you, but I don't want to think about this game anymore. Let's just say who our man of the match was. Can you pick anyone from that Stephen Parler turd who is your man of the match today?
Probably Tino. I thought Livramento played quite well. I thought he had some flashes. I do feel bad for him because he seems to kind of have this role where he just slots in and fills in wherever Howe needs him to at the moment. And I feel the lack of options for covering him. I mean, I know Hall couldn't play, and he doesn't seem to play even when he is eligible to play. But you know, Tino kind of is. I think he's probably one of our more informed players. He's not put a foot wrong as far as I'm concerned when he has played. Had some good touches. He's defensively sound. Looks good going forward. For me, he was probably the brightest amongst them. I don't think Bruno did a lot wrong, but didn't really shine as much as we are used to with him. Understanding that he's probably not slept for a few nights and scared to get that extra yellow card, so we'll let him off with that one. Isak, you know, look, absolute quality finish, but didn't really do a lot for the rest of the game because he's not getting the service. And you know, the rest of the team was very hit and miss and in and out for the full 90 minutes. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Tino.
All right, well, I'm going to do a 3-2-1 in classic Aussie rules. I'm going to do 3-2 Murphy because I actually think Murphy played pretty well this game. Obviously gets the goal, but he had a number of shots. He did some wonderful crosses into the box that there was nobody on the end of. Some real beautiful crosses. So I could give 3 to him. I'm going to give 2 to... Oh, God, who do I give 2 to? Let's give it to... I did have someone in mind there, and now I've completely forgotten. No, solid. I'm just going to give them all to Murphy. Murphy can have them all. Maybe it's one to Dubravka for saving the ball every now and again, but let's be honest. 3 to Murphy and everyone else can get stuffed. All right, so a terrible day in London for Newcastle. Once again, stop me if you've heard this before. Our next game will be the FA Cup. That's City away. Oh, God help us. I'm not expecting anything from that one.
I'm not looking forward to that.
I am tempted not to watch it, but I've got a subscription, so I might as well. And then I'm going to cancel that bugger straight afterwards. Yeah, that's on Saturday, Saturday 16th, so next Saturday. Next league game will be West Ham Saturday after that, or even 2 weeks after that, actually, at home. So West Ham doing pretty well, but we'll be at home. So let's hope we can get something out of that at home because we cannot do no on the road. All right, Mark, I am depressed enough. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Thanks for your company, mate. I've enjoyed looking at your background there. For the
Indeed, yeah, I think you've managed quite well being the talking head for the day because my camera has completely dropped the ball on that one. So apologies, but yeah, we'll get the technical difficulties ironed out for the next one.
Your camera's shit itself more than Newcastle. Actually, probably about the same as Newcastle.
Even the camera's decided it's all crap.
The cameras yeah. All right. Thanks for your company there, Mark. Thanks for everybody who's watching this, and we will see you for the next one. Cheers.
Take care, mate.